Good evening, everyone. Welcome to Sport Champ Live Talk Show on Career in Sports. And we have a very distinguished personality with us today, Dr. Martin Toms, who is a professor in the QS World University, rank 6 School of Sports, Exercise and Rehabilitation Science at the University of Birmingham, UK. He is an expert in sports education, youth sports, and talent identification, and has worked with many sports governing bodies, federations, and universities around the world to support the development of sports and sports people. An overseas citizen of India, he spends a lot of time in the country and is currently working alongside to inspire Institute, JSW, and also IIT Madras in developing sports science programs and applied sports science strategies. A former teacher and professional cricket coach, his aim is to help develop sports science and performance in India. He has recently edited publications on the Handbook of Coaching Children in Sports and Sports Science in India, Practice and Perspective. Welcome, Martin.
Thank you, Sergi, very kind. And welcome everybody to this talk, which I hope will be of interest and will also inspire. I think that is the key thing. I want to see India at the top of the medals table. So let's inspire the next generation of scientists to help.
Martin, today we all will be looking forward to hear you out about your background, about how you came into sport, and what you have working so much from last so many years, not only abroad, but also in India at the grassroots level. So we will be looking forward for that.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. Okay, I'm hoping the screen is visible, and thank you for the very kind introduction, and welcome to this talk, which I'm really hoping is going to inspire many of you watching to think about and consider sport, not just sports science, as a possible career move in the future. I have an asterisk next to sports science because sports science is quite a generic term covering a huge area. And we often talk about sports science, but we also need to include in there sports business, sports management, coaching, and all of the elements that are part of that process. So I think when I talk about sports science, I mean things a lot more general, if you like, than just science in itself. And I think that's really important as sports science grows as an area in India in particular, as it has done around the world. Just a little bit about me after that wonderful introduction. So I'm a former professional cricket coach and a physical education teacher. I'm currently head of global engagement in our sports science school, which is world ranked number 6 at the University of Birmingham in the UK. You may have seen the university a couple of years ago. We hosted the Commonwealth Games, and I was very fortunate to be there cheering along the India hockey team mainly. Unfortunately, the final didn't quite go as planned, but it was a wonderful experience, and I got to meet a lot of good colleagues from India. So my expertise is around youth sport and talent identification, and it's something I'm also doing some work on in India around the likes of Khelo India, TOPS program, and various other elements as well. I do a lot of work in India. I have just come back from vacation for 2 weeks in India, and I am back over in 3 weeks with university colleagues, traveling around a number of cities, doing some recruitment, having meetings, and catching up around sport in general. As I mentioned, yeah, I work with the Sports Authority of India, Inspire, JSW, and quite a lot at the moment with IIT Madras, helping support their developments. Yeah, done and written loads of things about India. I'm really interested in the Indian Olympic athlete journey, and I've spent a lot of time gathering data with colleagues at Inspire, which will lead to a number of publications just about how we can talent identify a lot of young sports people, which is going to be really exciting when that comes through. And most importantly, I have very, very close family ties to India, and it is my second home. And I think that's the crucial bit for me anyway. Okay, so career opportunities, having covered or undertaken sports science as a degree program. One of the things that I think is worth considering, and certainly this is for any parents watching, is that sports science or related subjects, whether that's sports medicine, sports physio, sports business, sports management, a lot of the work that goes into this is not specifically about a particular sport. It's about the principles that go around those sports. It's around the science that envelops all of those things. So when we talk about sports science, we are talking about universities that run programs of sports science that focus on particular topic areas, which I'll talk about later, rather than particular sports. These are not generally programs that lead you to become a coach, although the majority of students, particularly in the UK, that do them are already coaches and have an interest in sport. So there are a huge number of and this is just a small list, huge number of possibilities for work in the field of sport. As sport is growing nationally and internationally, a lot more of these roles are becoming more sought after and even developing themselves. So you've got everything from the general scientist, the sports scientist who might support athletes. They might be faculty members of universities doing research and supporting that. And just on that, I know a significant number of sports scientists in India who are faculty based. And the majority of those actually came from either a physiology, biomechanics, or psychology background, and then moved into sport afterwards. What we're hoping over time, and with a number of universities beginning sports science programs in India, is that those scientists will have an undergraduate in sports science and a postgraduate, possibly even a PhD afterwards, and actually will go in with the applied knowledge. So you've got the whole science. If you're into science, you've got the whole scientific perspective. You've also got opportunities for becoming a sports physician or medic. There are sports psychologists out there, lots of sports physiotherapists as well. And you'll see those an awful lot around things like football, for example, the Indian Premier League. You've got IPL cricket. You've got a lot of physios, a lot of people involved around the edges. So these are the people, all of these are the people that actually help athletes get their medals, win competitions. Even as teams, it helps support and develop those. So these are, I suppose, a little bit of backroom staff that are actually supporting those elite athletes. Yeah, you've got coaches, and I realise that SAI, Sports Authority of India, do a lot, and the federations do a lot of work around coaching, either specific or generalists. You've got performance analysts. You've also got data analysts as well, that are slightly different. You've got people who manage facilities or organisations, administrative, strength and conditioning coaches, PE staff, coordinators of partnerships, which are important. People working in events. Yeah, talent scouts is going to be a big thing. So all of the work around talent identification. Yeah, you name it. You've got accountancy, people working in accounts, marketing, advertising operations, sports business generally, technical leads for national governing bodies and sports, research and development of equipment, performance enhancing equipment, and even supplements, and even people working in policy. So with the future Olympics going to be held in India, hopefully in, I believe, 2036, if those bids all work out, then there will be a number of people working for the government based around policy and looking at that. So studying sports science is the beginning of a journey. It doesn't mean you have to be a sports scientist. You can branch out wherever you want to. And I think that is truly key. Probably the majority of you listen to this are very much like I was. Loved sport. I played a huge amount of cricket. Absolutely loved cricket. Wanted to become a professional player. Was never good enough, sadly. I went and did a sports science undergraduate degree course. From that, I actually went and did research on talent identification in cricket within schools. So I went and did a master's degree program, and then I went off and did something similar at sort of club level and above. So I ended up doing a PhD in cricket talent identification. And then I ended up working, that was as well as coaching. Then I ended up working as university faculty. So wherever your interest and passion lies, you have that opportunity to take that forward, maybe in the sport that you love. And I think that is really, really important to be aware of, is that jobs in sport are fairly well paid. They are quite common, and most importantly, they are global. And that, I think, is a really, really important thing to consider. Okay, so a little bit about the example career opportunities. There are just a few. There are plenty of websites you can search for jobs in sport and sports science. But the type of courses, okay. Generally, most countries offer a BSc in sports science or even sports management or related subject areas. So you can find undergraduate programs in sports science in most countries, not in every university, but certainly in most countries. A lot of them will also offer masters and PhDs. And I think the key thing in here is that if you're going to work in sports, an MSc or an MA in a sports science or management field is probably a really good advantage for you. Undergraduate will help, masters will help, and certainly a PhD will help as well. When you get to postgraduate level, you will find that there are a lot of what we like to call hyper-specialized subject areas. So you can, for example, do masters in sports psychology, in sports nutrition, in physiology, in biomechanics, in coaching, and even within those, they can be quite specialized. So it's worth just thinking about, and I think this is the key thing at the base of this educational pyramid, getting to understand what part of sports science you prefer, thinking about a master's in that subject, and maybe to, again, help the knowledge base, think about doing a PhD, perhaps way off in the future. But certainly the jobs are at the bachelor's and master's level when you're looking out there. And again, they are global jobs, and I think that's absolutely key. There's also something to consider as well here, and that is the link between the development of sports science countries in courses, sports science courses in countries, and also national sports performance. So there, for the UK, for Team GB, ranked 2 or 3 in the world at the last 4 Olympic Games. We are one of the biggest providers of sports science at university level in the world. And those students who go and do our degrees in sports science then move on to work within federations, governing bodies, helping coaches, helping athletes. And that knowledge and awareness has allowed us to, with a population of around about 65 million, to actually go, I think that's a population of Gujarat off the top of my head, actually to go out and be a world leading nation in sport. And I think that's really, really important. In India, there are lots of federation developments. So a lot of the federations are realizing that sports science is important, and they are engaging far more with that. So doing a sports science degree course now is the exact right time, because in 3, 4, 5 year times, there's going to be far more developments. And we don't have to think about universities and faculty that way. There are some of the big organizations like Tata, JSW, Reliance, who also look for sports science graduates to help them in some of their programs. just very, very briefly, I think it's really important to realise that when you cover a sport and exercise science degree programme, you will cover some of, if not all of, the subject topic areas. But these are all broken down. I talked about hyper-specialisation earlier. These are all broken down into quite a detailed level of information. And you may well, at university, particularly in first year, cover all of these areas a slight amount. In years 2 and 3, you may specialise. At postgraduate level, you will specialise a little bit more. And if you go on from there, you might even hyper-specialise in a particular area. So my PhD, even though it was on cricket, it was around the coaching pedagogy area, but more particular around the talent identification journey of young performers. So there's an awful lot out there. So your sports science is the centre, and some of the key areas are outside. And I will reiterate, this is not necessarily about studying a sport, an individual sport. This is about the principles and science of sports science and what that can do and what areas that can take you to. One of the interesting things we have from some of our graduates is a lot of them have done sports science and ended up in business and management because that is a key and growing field. And regardless of whether you've done science, but you have an understanding of sport, that has been really, really useful for future employers. Okay, some key questions. Now, I'm going to start this section with a bit of a rider saying that eligibility for courses may well differ from country to country. But these are some general principles. So, most mainstream sports science, sports coaching, sports management, sports business courses only require academic grades for entry. Sporting ability is helpful and no doubt people who are interested and passionate play a bit of sport, but is not a requirement. You do not have to have any tests on your sporting ability in order to get access. It is purely down to academic grades and knowledge. There may be scholarships in some countries, and that would be worth contacting the particular university about. You may find there are academic scholarships, and you may find in some countries, and you probably see this most in the USA, there are sporting scholarships as well, if you are at a really high level in your sport. But certainly probably academic scholarships, particularly in the UK, are the most common and the most sought after. And there are league tables. There are plenty of league tables. The QS league table was mentioned at the start, and I'll mention that a little bit later as well. And these league tables offer you the list of universities that are ranked highest. And you can see this in most subject areas. And those ones that are ranked highest are obviously more competitive and they require higher grades to get into than those perhaps that are lower ranked. To some extent, it doesn't matter. A sports science degree is a sports science degree. It's then what you do with it afterwards. What I would say as well is certainly speak to any relevant university you're looking at if you want any details about eligibility for courses or anything of that ilk, or whether what they cover, what the job prospects are post-graduation and all those sorts of things. So I think that's an important thing to be aware of. And the key thing is, this is about academic grades more than it is sporting ability. Okay, so I mentioned this a little bit earlier on. So there are lots of league tables in each country. There are some generic league tables. There are subject league tables as well. You can access the QS World University Rankings by subject. And in 2024, they have, and they do this every year, they have listed the top 10 universities, or no, they've listed more than that, the top 100 universities that deliver sports science in the world. And this is based on a series of specific rankings and criteria of that. I'm fortunate to say that University of Birmingham, where I worked, is ranked number 6 in the world. and has been consistently for around about the last 5 or 6 years. So if you want to find the best universities, go and have a look at the list. The best universities are the most competitive. It's a global list, so it's worth exploring regions, countries, and everything else to see what options there might be there. It's worth also identifying what you're actually after, what you want to study itself. So do you want sports science? Do you want something around exercise and health science? Now, exercise and health science is beginning to have more traction, particularly in the UK and Europe, because of the issues around health and things like obesity. So exercise and health science and sports science are quite similar. You may do a little bit more about exercise than you might do on psychology, biomechanics, coaching, for example, that might be slightly different in that. But there are also courses on sports coaching, physical education, sports management, sports business, sports medicine, the list goes on. And it's worth really considering where you think your interest and maybe your academic expertise might lie into what you want to look at there. Just as a bit of an example, I mentioned this earlier. So in the UK, around about 75 out of 120 universities offer sports science degrees. We are graduating a good few thousand sports science students every year. Over the last 30 years, we must have graduated a few 100,000 sports science students around the country. And those are the people that are making a difference on sport from the grassroots level, from coaching, from becoming PE teachers, to the elite level, those who are coaching elite athletes, those who are involved in sports science at that level. And that is my fervent wish for India over the next 10, 15, 20 years, to have enough graduates out there who are going to make a huge difference. I think not just on sport, but also on exercise and health in the country. And you can see a lot of the initiatives that are coming out from the government, and particularly your Prime Minister, around things like the Fit India movement, Tailor India movement. All of these initiatives are ways of exploring and trying to get health, fitness, and sport as a mechanism for that out there. If you're going to do some research on this, the key countries that offer sports science degrees, and there are many other as well, they tend to be slightly more limited in the number of universities that do it, tend to be the UK, Australia, Canada, New Zealand, and the USA. So if you're looking to study abroad and thinking about that, go and focus on those countries. In India, I'm involved in a number of projects that are developing sports science programs that will be up and going, I hope, within the next 3 or 4 years. But certainly there are a number of undergraduate programs at universities in India, and there will be more in the pipeline, I can guarantee. A few final thoughts, just from me and from my experience. Think about an undergraduate journey in sport and sports science as the start of the process, the start of your journey. You're moving from an acorn to a sapling, for where you might want to go and what you might want to do. I genuinely had no idea what I wanted to do when I started my sports science degree, apart from study sport. And I'm really fortunate now to work as to where I'm working and also where I am, just by going through those journeys and identifying options and possibilities. The postgraduate study area and subject specialisms are becoming key in the entire sports global market. So if you have an interest on areas, but certainly in things like, and we haven't really mentioned sports engineering, for example, then there are a huge number of organizations out there that will want to hear from you. Everything from manufacturing golf clubs to developing sports cars to wearable kits to technology, and sports tech is huge. Anything to do sports analytics, all of those areas are growing enormously, and particularly I know in India as well for that. I think the key thing then is to identify what your strength is, and really see if you can discover your career pathway through that. You may not be excellent in all of biomechanics, physiology, psychology, coaching, social science, business management, but within those areas you will find your niche, and work out what that niche is, and then look to explore the development of your skills and what you can do. And I will leave you, before my final slide, with just one quote from Swami Vivekananda, and that is, all the knowledge in the world is yours to take. You just have to reach out and grab it. Dhanyavad. Thank you.
That was super insightful, Martin. It has given a complete detail about what are the careers available in sports, and will definitely guide a lot of athletes who wish to make a career in sports. But one quick question from my side to you is, what is your biggest challenge while developing sports at the grassroots level, especially in the country which you are seeing?
My real passion is grassroots sport.
Yes.
The biggest challenge is certainly trying to get policy and government to focus at that level, but also there is a lot of people would rather work at the elite end than they would at the grassroots end. And I think it is very humbling to work at grassroots level, to go out and coach young kids. And I suppose it's a little bit like being a kindergarten teacher. You have a huge responsibility and you have a huge amount of work to do, but maybe you don't get as much recognition as those people who teach at university. But I would argue your job is far more important.
Correct. Correct. So, Martin, as per the data of India, every year, almost 18,65,000 jobs which get created in the field of sports, but almost 80,500 something is the job which get fulfilled. That is what, as per the LNIP and Gwalior and other data which we have received, is
Yeah.
this. So what do you think are the myths among the parents and students that the career in sports, people have the hitch to take a step forward?
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. I remember my careers teacher at school when I said I wanted to study sports science, thinking that all I was going to do was run around a football pitch for 3 years and kick a ball or hit a ball. I think there's certainly the amount of media focus that's coming into sports science, and there will be, I know, about the Olympics this year. There's a series of online courses generally around sports science and what that is. But I think that the key thing, particularly for parents to be aware of, as indeed my parents were when I was doing it, is this is about the science of sport more than sport and science.
Yeah.
So a lot of the science, a lot of the business, a lot of the management, a lot of the technology is something that is a key area that is going to grow. It's also where we are now seeing, particularly in the UK, parts of Europe and the US, Canada, the area where we have the biggest growth in jobs and roles, as people realise to get that little bit further, then you need specialist jobs. So it's very much a generic sports science undergraduate, maybe with a more focused postgraduate. And that focused postgraduate tends to be what gets you the jobs in those particular areas. So I can understand parents being a little bit unsure. There are jobs out there. There are jobs around the world in sport, in the same way there are jobs around the world in management and business. And that is something that is very useful to consider, especially where there is an awful lot to learn. We have an awful lot to learn from India around methods and ways that sport is developed, changed, amended, created, and run.
Correct.
That we in the West don't have experience of.
One last question, Martin, that what will be your guidance to the parents? Because as you know, parents plays a very, very important role in India and also in many parts of the world of choosing career in sports or any stream, as a matter of fact. So what will be your one guidance to all of them to parents especially?
But my one guidance, I think, if you're going to look at studying at university, is find a university that is appropriate and has good outcomes.
Correct.
That's the key. The careers will come from there.
Correct.
So it's often better to focus on a good university, and the QS rankings might be useful for that, particularly in there aren't any Indian universities in the QS World Rankings yet for sport, but there are some of the major players that are getting involved in sport that will be in the rankings, I would imagine, fairly soon. So pick the university, and then almost allow the child, your son or daughter, to work out what their career path might be from there, because there is a career path. It's a slightly different focus from getting a job, from doing medicine, dentistry, business, or engineering, knowing that there is a precise job at the end of it. It's a little bit more nuanced than that, but that allows a lot more opportunity and a lot more development than anything else.
So, Martin, if anyone wishes to know more about University of Birmingham and wish to know about the courses and everything, what are the courses available which University of Birmingham offers? And if someone would love to get in connect and know more about it, how they can do that?
Okay, so we are the first university in the UK to have a sports science course, and that was over 60 years ago.
Yeah.
In fact, no, I tell a lie. It was actually 70 years ago. Goodness gracious. And we run courses in sport, exercise, and health science, sport and coaching science, and we also run physiotherapy programs. Those are our undergraduate programs. Our postgraduate programs become more specialized. So we have sports medicine, sports physio, we have sports coaching, sports psychology, physiology, you name it, postgraduate. And people watching this will notice that the majority of universities will run a very generic sports science, and then they will specialize at postgraduate level. It seems to be much easier than that. In terms of contacting universities, I am more than happy to take any questions from anybody about University of Birmingham, about any other university anywhere else, if that helps. My contact details were on the previous slide that was up, but I can make sure that they are there to pass on.
Yep.
And I'm more than happy, even if it's in person when I'm in India, to talk to anybody or over any other means that anybody thinks might be helpful. I would be delighted to help the next generation of people working in sports in India. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Martin. Thanks for your time, and thanks for such a wonderful session, which will be igniting and inspiring the students to get into sports. And not only those who are into sports, but also those who have got just enthusiastic or having the aspiration towards sport. So that what you have made it very clear that it is not only for sports person, but it can be for anyone who have got the liking towards sports or making as a career in sports. Thank you so much, Martin. Thank you so much. And thank you. And thank you everyone for being a part of the show, and all the best. Thank you, Martin.
Thank you, Danny.